What's up, everybody? It's Jay, and I'm back with the crazy weekend from UFC 328, and we're here to break it all down. We have a new two-time middleweight champ taking the belt from BORZ, making him look like human again in this fight, right? We always had the mystique of Hamza Chimaev being this crazy boogeyman, and again, this is the second time somebody has made him look like just a human. And then we have two young bucks throwing down for the flyweight title, and Van making his first defense. Again, guys, I'm Jay with Scraps and Taps, and let me peel back the curtain a little bit and show you a little bit of my weekend of what I had. So I had an eventful Saturday night. After the main event was over, I just drank so much beer, and I have so much spotty memories of the night. I remember when Sean won, and all that good stuff, But, whoo, they didn't give me a glass at the bar for my pitcher of beer, right? And so, when you don't get glass and you're just a little buzzed, sometimes I think the good idea that you think is going to happen is that you're going to drink from the pitcher, right? So that was my great idea. And nobody wanted to share with me, none of my homies. And I was like, come on, guys, you're going to make me do this by myself? And yeah, that was pretty much the nail in my coffin for the rest of the night. Now let's fast forward to like 2:30 in the morning, and I managed to make it to my room somehow. I don't remember coming home. Good thing my bar is walkable distance, so I didn't have to drive or anything like that. We don't condone that here at Scraps and Taps. And yeah, I get home. I must have levitated somehow up my stairs, and I passed out on my floor, back to the sky. I was probably praying to God that I make it through what I'm going through. And the cherry on the top was this alarm that went off. Now, it wasn't an alarm like, my God, my phone went off. It was an alarm like a fountain of throw up coming out of me as it wakes me up. I'm violently throwing up from my back, and I go, blah! And that's not I guess. I threw up all on my shoulder, and it was it was pretty tough. It's been a long time since I've been like that. I'm not much of a drinker for the most part. I'm more of a smoker than anything. I mean, I can still drink, but it just got away from me a little bit, and I feel so bad because I woke up my wife through this violent throw up that I had, and um, I had to crawl to my toilet. My process is I take a 2 hour shower, probably like 1+ hour of showering, and I just lay there, and I'm just there like, why did I do this? Why did I do this? Why did I get? Well, anyways, that's me all the time. That is my process. Yeah. What's everybody else's hangover cure or process, or is there something that they always do when they're messed up and they're like, oh, I know where to find this person. I want to know what your guys' most funny drunk stories are. And shout out to my wife, because she's been trying to take care of me. Sorry, thought I heard somebody coming down. She's been trying to take care of me all fucked up like for a long time, because like I said, I don't drink a lot, so she likes to take care of me when I'm like that. But I guess I should have given her more of a warning on this one instead of just showing up. But I really gave her a run for her money on this one. I mean, it must have looked like this. And then I woke up with the nastiest hangover on Sunday. And after a full day of recovery, I am here right now, feeling a lot better. It takes me if I don't get up off my bed, it takes me all day to recover from a hangover. If I get up out of bed, like after a couple hours of being awake, like I'll be good by the end of the day, which is exactly what happened. Um, but yeah, that was my Saturday night after Sean Strickland's crazy fucking win over Hamzat Chimaev. But did also anyone catch the roast of Kevin Hart this Sunday? I mean, it was fucking hilarious. All the comics killed. I got to shout out to my favorite comedian though, Big J Okerson. Absolutely killed it. He is us. He is us, 100%. And absolutely crushed it. Chelsea Handler looked fucking beautiful, fucking hot as fuck, and absolutely crushed it. I mean, she is still fucking super hot fire. I mean, she is fucking killing all the fucking comics. And all the rest of the dais was good too. Jeff Ross looking like a melted gummy still. And yeah, it was so funny. The Rock came out. Like, it was pretty intense. Fucking hilarious. The jokes that were coming. I mean, it felt like a legit roast, not like some, oh, we're gonna play it easy. No, it was fucking good. It was fucking good. So I definitely highly recommend, if anybody wants to get some good laughs, check out the roast of Kevin Hart. Fucking hilarious. Look out for my guy, Big J Okerson. I think a lot of people will love him. But now I am here to break down the big wins at UFC 328 for you. So let's get down to some more combat sports. So let's get started with our main event. We have King Green versus Jeremy Stephens. I mean, King, always a showman, always chatting that shit, has just the most fun style. And when you have a fun style, you're going to have your hands by your hips at all times. Versus Jeremy Lil Heathen Stephens.
Who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that?
The hardest hitting 145er out there. When he hits guys, they don't wake up. Lil Heathen unfortunately missed weight by 4 pounds, which is a lot. Also, I want to know, what dirt does Jeremy have on the UFC, or why is he just so beloved? Because he's one of those few guys who've jumped in and out from the UFC, which is rare. It's rare to get a one fight deal with the UFC, let alone jumping out of the organization kind of in and out, how he's been. But I know sometimes they do grease the wheels for these older fighters, or whenever they come back to their hometown, that they might give them one. But it's still very rare to see a one-time contract and then leave, which I'm assuming Jeremy is under. But King, man, like I said, always starting with his low hands in the fight. And it's just his style. And it's scary against a guy who hits as hard as Jeremy. Just from the strikes alone, King was just putting the sauce on Jeremy Stephens, really opening up with those body kicks. And then King rips a fucking kick from hell right at Jeremy's dick. And that was his saving grace. It had to be his saving grace for Jeremy. And after that reset, Jeremy throws an overhand right that looks like a fucking missile, and King ducks right under it, but he uses that momentum to take Jeremy down. And this is where King just starts softening Jeremy's body up by hitting him. And after he gets him just softened up enough, just enough to make where Jeremy wants to pop out and make a mistake because he's tired of the punishment, King just goes in for the rear naked choke. All said and done. I mean, King is having a fucking resurgence right now, and I'm here for it. It's just another one of those legends that for sure will be missed when he's gone. Shout out to King Green. Well, two legends of the sport, King and Jeremy. Now we get Sean Brady versus Joaquin Buckley. Now, this is the classic grappler versus striker fight. Brady with his fucking Ninja Turtle back. And we know what he's going to do. He's going to try and strangle you. And he can out-grapple anyone in the division. He has insane wrestling. But Buckley, he's an exciting fighter. Super fast. Has one of the most amazing knockouts in the UFC when he knocked out Impa Kasanganay with that spinning back kick while Impa was holding his leg. Buckley, though, was really keen to all the wrestling in the first, but Brady and his tenacity to complete the takedown needs to be studied. Brady manages to run Buckley to the fence and finish the takedown, and that was the story of the whole fight. Brady made Buckley look JV in this fight. And Brady is such a beast. I mean, he dominated Buckley the whole entirety of the fight, and he wasn't just laying on Buck and just, getting control time. I mean, he was punishing him at every chance that Buckley tried to advance position or move into a different position. Brady was there showing him I'm going to fuck you up everywhere. I mean, he was like a spider on him, didn't let him move, not 1 ounce of space in between him. And everywhere they went, Brady just had the upper hand. The way he uses momentum, the way he shifts his weight and rarely loses control of the position. I mean, Brady was looking like nobody was going to deny him on that night. Nobody. And nobody has ever dominated Buckley to that extent. I mean, he was legit Donkey Kong punching him at some point. And as a wrestler, I've been where Buckley's at, where you're on the bottom, you can't advance. Whatever you're doing is being completely negated by this guy's top position and how he's managed to control your body, where you're going, right? Thwarting every sort of escape that you try. I mean, it's very demoralizing. So, it sucks the hope out of the fight. And that's what you see from Buckley, right? You've seen that a lot from other guys too, like Leon Edwards, where they look dejected going into their corners. Most recently, JDM looking dejected going into his corner. I mean, it's tough when you're getting sworn by somebody who's just a specialist at one thing, and you are in the web pretty much, and you can't get out. It's the most hopeless feeling you can have when you're in a fight, I believe. But shout out to Brady getting it done. I mean, showing again a dominant win over Buckley. Who would you give Brady next? I mean, he's getting real close to a title shot, and it wasn't an exciting knockout, but it was definitely a dominating show of force for Sean Brady. Let's move on to our heavyweight division. I mean, right now it seems like the heavyweights are again thriving. It only took a couple of fights for them to get back on the map. And right now, like we say, it's still a shallow division. A shallow division where you could have a statement win and slide in for a title shot maybe, or get up there in the top 5. I mean, the taking is right there at heavyweight for anybody to slide in and really make a run for the title, I see that the UFC are making these matchmaking these fighters that sometimes have a big discrepancy, and that's exciting, especially for the heavyweight division. But we have Alexander Volkov taking on Waldo Cortez Acosta. We all know Acosta, the surging heavyweight. I mean, he's fought 6 times last year. That's crazy. And especially if you don't get damaged like that, or you're ending fights that quickly. I mean, 6 fights is a lot. Versus Volkov. I mean, Volkov, he's a veteran in this fight. And Volkov's physique is just, as he's gotten longer in the UFC, I feel like his physique is getting better. He's looking really strong in this fight. Whoever his strength and conditioning coach needs to give himself a raise, because Volkov is looking strong these days. But here in the fight, I mean, the whole thing was Acosta was going to try and take Volkov's head off. I mean, he's been knocking dudes out, finishing fights. But the thing is, Volkov is just such a rangy fighter. I mean, he's probably one of the tallest heavyweights in the division right now. But Volkov, again, with that tallness, he's using his range to allow himself to get that space from Volkov when he's ready to load up and throw a huge right hand or a fight-ending punch. And Volkov would just always get his feet under him. And whenever that power was coming, he would push back. And Waldo really in the fight had to extend in order to get into Volkov's range, which is always dangerous for a short fighter to extend like crazy, because the counter could come at any time. And Volkov, he's a long guy. He could throw a kick that you won't see, and it will just come right over your shoulder. And Volkov, just the whole fight, he was just doing a great job of trying to chop the tree and kick Waldo's leg out so he can take that speed and that power away and just basically pick him apart and point fight. And somewhere through the second round, you can start feeling Waldo's frustration, and now he's starting to take some risks and get caught by Volkov. And once he gets caught, he gets backed up to the fence, and he's starting to hurt a little bit. But you know what? Volkov doesn't push the gas. He doesn't get bloodthirsty. He literally walks towards him, which is kind of crazy. I mean, you're giving him this. Every second counts, I feel like, in a fight, especially when you rock somebody and then, you don't go for that finish. But anyways, Volkov manages to throw a head kick that almost rings Waldo's bell. But Volkov is just so good at using his range. And then this fight, I mean, Volkov would just show that his just masterclass. Like, he had the read on Waldo. He knew exactly what to look for. He knew exactly what was going to go on. He knew he stuck to his game plan, most importantly. Um, and Volkov gets the win. Like I say, just really using more of a defensive approach. Really just point fighting. Not really taking the risk like Waldo had to. Um, but yeah, that's our heavyweight fight. I mean, it was still competitive, back and forth. Then we get Joshua Van versus Tatsuro Taira, our co-main event, right? Both of these guys, young as fuck, super hungry, right? To get this title defense that would pretty much legitimize Joshua Van's title run. Because there's a lot of questions right after he won the title. How was he going to do against real opposition? Not a real opposition, but like, how do you come back when everybody's kind of writing you off? Like, this is your first time. And again, it's not against the champ that you lost the title to. So it's just somebody completely different trying to get your title. And Taira looking to be the first Japanese UFC champ to bring home the title back to Okinawa, baby. And Van, like I said, looking to make his first title defense after he won it last year. And in round one, let's just jump into it. I mean, Taira was getting off with the wrestling and making it a grueling pace. I mean, Van did manage to get up a couple of times by causing a few scrambles. But Taira, I mean, his wrestling is top tier. It was able to hold Van there for a while. Not really advancing position, more control, right? And in round two, this is where Van just starts lighting up Taira. He's starting to heat up, but it's very slowly. I mean, and in this fight, as Van's pressuring, Taira still manages to find a way to take Van down, but just for a short time this time. Then Van gets up and loads up a monster of a right hand that puts Taira on his ass. And Van was looking like,
Ooh, that's good. Intervention!
and at the end of round two, I mean, Taira is stumbling to his corner to get back on the stool. It was kind of insane. I mean, Van, the way Taira going into the third, the damage that was just starting to show on his face was so much. I mean, his face was starting to look puffy and bruised and pink. I mean, his porcelain skin was turning like red, and it really gave me vibes of Rory McDonald at the end of the Lawler fight. And Van was just not letting up in the third, and still, Taira is just getting in Van's face and throwing some leg kicks, and he still tries to shoot for the takedown. I mean, even if this guy is gassed out and he's just looking like hell, he's gonna still go for the win. I mean, at this point, he's giving it everything he's got. He's showing his heart in this fight, and it's something that's so commendable with these guys, is that they just continue to fight. They don't want to give up on their dreams so much that he's gonna fight through this fucking. I mean, Taira's face is completely rearranged. I mean, his face is now a durable piece of leather, and how he managed to make it into the fifth round is insane. Taira's heart, his soul was in that cage, and for sure he left a piece of himself in that octagon. Like I said, how he managed to make it to the fifth round is beyond me. But Van disposes of Taira in the best way possible in the fifth, and Van just hitting each shot on the money, and Taira is just taking each shot. And right when the fight is about to finish, Taira even complained like, "Fuck, man, like, why didn't you let it go a little longer?" But that's the heart of a champion, 100%. Didn't win the title, but definitely earned a lot of respect from the fans. Taira is definitely gonna look like a balloon for a while.
My foot was a balloon. My foot was a balloon. You want to see it?
I've seen somewhere too that Van and John Jones are the youngest ever to defend the title at 24 years old. Can you imagine being 24 years old and then your name is next to one of the greatest combat sports athletes of our generation in John Jones? I was knee deep in boxed wine at 24. You know, at the end of the fight, I'll give this too. I didn't like how Van called out Pantoja. I think it's kind of weird. Pantoja has given him a lot of respect, a lot of respect for his opponents, a lot of respect to Van. I feel like the name call in Spanish was a little unwarranted. You know, I feel like Van's playing. You know, he's trying to drum something up, but I feel like Pantoja is just too respectful. And maybe that'll change, getting closer to their fight. But yeah, Van making his first defense at 24 years old, going up there with some of the GOATs. I mean, he's looking good. He's his first real war as a title holder, and he held his own. I mean, we're looking like we're gonna have a good champion in that division. Now, let's get to our main event. So let's all be real before we get to it, right? Chimaev missed weight. There's no fucking chance that you can tell me that Chimaev didn't miss weight. The way they looked at the scale, the way they read it, everything about it was funky. He was the last to weigh in. I mean, that's not normal. I mean, that's normal. I think Hamza is usually always the last one to weigh in because he does have these tough weight cuts. But it all felt very weird. And it felt like someone told him, get in there, step on, and get the fuck out. Like usually there's a lady saying, oh, they need to take the picture and blah, 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 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and all that on the scale. So something fishy was going on for reals. And let's not forget, Hamza missed weight that almost fucked a whole card. So yeah, let's be real. Hamza missed weight. No fucking chance that anybody can change my mind. If you're trying to change my mind, you're casual, straight up. But anyways, all the security in the octagon was a crazy scene. I mean, by the time the main event rolled around, I mean, after having that Van Taira fight, I mean, everybody in the bar was drumming up. I mean, everybody was getting hyped up. And I mean, like I said, the bad blood just gave it this extra like layer of, you know. But let's get into this fight. Hamza really showing why his wrestling is number one in that first round. He was just dominating Sean on the ground, not giving Sean any fucking room to breathe, and even managing to get a position to his back at the end of the first. Hamza just always choosing to strike to set up that wrestling, right? He'll give you like a 1-2 pop, and then you know he's going in for like a spear. Like he's trying to blast double you. But Sean realizes this, and he starts getting the read and is able to see the takedown and stuff the takedown into the second round. And in this second round, this is where I feel like the fart. Oh, I'm fucked up, dude. Maybe I'm still fucked up from Sunday. The fight changes in this second round when Sean starts to stuff the takedown. He stuffs one, and then shortly after, Hamza takes another shot. But this shot, Hamza tries to work for it. Sean stuffs the takedown. Somehow, Hamza chooses to get on his back and accept the bottom position and pull guard, which is fucking crazy that Sean Strickland had Hamza Chimaev pulling guard. What the fuck? Sean Strickland, no ground game whatsoever, making fucking Hamza Chimaev pull guard. Insane. But I also feel like it brings me back to the weight cut. A tough cut, tougher time acclimating to the opponent, like whatever rule set they have, whatever their tools they bring to the table. I mean, it was crazy to see Sean just absolutely taking over and even having top position over a guy like Hamza. I mean, it's crazy. Hamza had 4+ minutes of control in the first, and Sean had 3+ minutes of control in the second. And like I said, going into that third round, or not like I said, but going into that third round, I really wasn't expecting Hamza to gas out so quick. But the start of that third round, he's moving real fluid. He's looking like he's made a good recovery. But the thing about Sean is he has this sword in his stone. It's his fucking jab. His jab literally won him a world title twice. Twice, guys. A jab. I mean, and he really starts to use that jab effectively in the later rounds, and the damage is starting to show on Hamzat's face. And Sean isn't looking any better. I think Sean's nose was broken at this point in the third round, and just the pace that these guys are putting going on into the fourth, I'm thinking BORZ is down 2-1. But again, Hamzat is just doing this thing where he's at the start of every round, he's looking fresher and fresher. So going into the fourth, he's starting to turn this pace again. Also able to get a couple of takedowns on Sean. And really does a good job of getting some energy. And Sean does a really good job of saving his energy when he's getting taken down and using it just at the right moment to get up. Every single time that Sean tried to post up and get on a hand, and he would be able to get onto a knee or advance some sort of position where it was easier for him to get up, whether he's using the fence, whether he's able to pop out a little bit. So, I mean, Sean's doing a great job in terms of, getting up from these takedowns and not giving Hamzat that same control that he had almost a whole round in the first round. Yeah, and during the fifth, I mean, it looked a lot like the fourth round. But Sean's jab is what really changed everything in that fifth round, just brutalizing Chimaev's face. And I feel like just the visual of Hamzat's bloody and bruised face, his forehead looked lumpier than homemade mashed potatoes. And he wasn't really doing much with the takedowns in the later rounds. And Sean would pop right back up. But they were still face to face, grill to grill, not giving each other room to breathe. It was such a good fight. A jab clinic on Sean's part. I mean, they're going to talk about Sean's jab in the history books 100%. I mean, also, it was really interesting, though, how Hamzat recovered in later rounds, but just couldn't work the grappling enough to chain the sub or even land like fight-ending damage. It was just mainly for control. Maybe that was his plan, to try to hold him there till the fifth round and open up, but Sean had different plans for Hamzat. I really cannot stress this enough when I say it is unreal how Sean made it a two-time world champion with only a jab and some teep kicks. I mean, this whole event, unreal buildup, unreal tension. At the end, they seemed to bury the hatchet. I mean, what a good night of fights for the UFC. I mean, the UFC is up right now. Now we're headed towards Freedom 250 and other big fights. And I mean, what an event. What an event. Hamzat Chimaev versus Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland, a two-time world champion. He's done it again. Yeah. Now let's head into the world of bare knuckle. So this last week, right, we had BKFC, and they had their Blood for Blood event this past week. It was definitely something special. This event maybe featured about 5 or 6 fights, and in between the fights, this is where the special comes in. They had metal bands playing in between the fights. So we had bands like Slaughter to Prevail, Malevolence, Black Label Society, and Crowbar. Now, I was only able to watch the co-main and main, and in the co-main, we had Jake Brutal Boswick decimating his opponent in the second round. And in the main event, you remember that band that I said in the beginning, Slaughter to Prevail? They were one of the first bands to go up and play. Well, the big draw for this event was that the lead singer of that band, Slaughter to Prevail, Alex the Terrible, was stepping into the squared circle. And it isn't his first time doing bare knuckle. I mean, he's fought, he's a Russian guy, so I think he's fought on their really popular promotion. If I'm not mistaken, it's the one that you probably see on Instagram, that the ring is like hay bales and there's a crowd around the hay bales. I don't know what that is. If I find a picture, I'll put it up. But he was stepping into the squared circle to fight Cameron Delano, a professional bull rider who also is no stranger to the bare knuckle game. Dude, and what a back and forth these guys had. Both are so fucking tough, and they were just trading in the pocket. I mean, Alex was getting tagged by Delano's punches, even through the guard, and even earning some knockdowns. And Delano was just doing a great job of getting away from any damaging shots from Alex. He wasn't running, but he was definitely like, he had a high guard. His guard was just so much better than Alex's. Wasn't able to be split when he would get in the pocket. I mean, he would roll with the punches. Delano was looking really good, and he's able to keep his squeaky clean record of 2-0. And again, bare knuckle fighting championship, showing that they have a little parity and shaking up these events, right? And I like music a lot. I love music in general. I would say that metal music, I don't listen to it like a crazy amount. I do enjoy it. I can enjoy it. But even sometimes I'm like more of like, I just want to listen to people talk. I listen to podcasts a lot. But having the music in between the fights was so interesting because it's metal. It's made for bare knuckle almost, right? It just gets your blood boiling and you can't wait for that next fight. But it was keeping my blood hot waiting for the next fight. So shout out to BKFC, always pushing the boundaries out there, and had a very successful blood for blood event. I can't wait to see what the next one's going to look like. So Dan Hardy was on the Joe Rogan Experience maybe like a week ago at this point. And, you know, the UFC, as you once known, it was a small company on the brink of death, bought out by Zuffa and the Fertitas. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you better lower your voice when you talk to me if you don't know about the Fertitta brothers. I fucked my whole shit up trying to be cool. And if you don't know who Dan Hardy is, I mean, you probably remember him from his iconic mohawk back in the day, and now he commentates for the PFL. He also had a really grueling fight and a nasty knockout from Carlos Condit. And that's one of the most memorable knockouts, I think, ever in the history of the UFC. He also reminds me that he could have been a playable character from Guitar Hero back in the day. But legitimately, one of the real great minds of the sport. Damn. One of the great minds of the sport. And he had such a love and has such a love and passion for MMA. And it really shows that he cares for the fighter. Not like old Kingpin. And I swear, I feel like Dan can run a successful promotion. Anyways, he had some things to say about the state of the MMA scene, specifically the monopolization of the UFC, which I feel like it's very important to say things like this because it's true, right? Dan wouldn't be saying this if he didn't truly believe it. And you know, this has been something that's been people talk about it very under, like the real MMA fans, the real people who care about the fighters and the sport and want to see the sport grow. They care about stuff like this because, man, it's not, these fighters aren't a team. These fighters aren't a franchise that you can slip in a guy and for Aljamain Sterling and be like, this is the new Aljamain Sterling who'll take number 44 and we'll just plug him in here. No, these are people every day like you and me who go to work and train every day and still have to do responsibilities and still have to work a second job while they're in the UFC. I mean, people like Dan have to be around for this sport to continue to live and survive, because he's not a guy who's going to fall in line with what the UFC says or does, because he's not like a puppet. He's not a shill. He has morals. He has these fighters on the back of his mind at all times, trying to take care of them. So shout out to Dan Hardy.
Silly. That's a good point, actually. I'd not thought about that. I actually developed a system of introducing weight classes over the next several years for the PFL. I mean, obviously, the problem that we have is that some weight classes are just not filling out because the fighters are just not there, unfortunately.
Right.
You know, but I also think that's a bit of a result of the monopolization and the kind of killing off of the grassroots of the sport, because the sport's not growing like it was in my day. You know what I mean? It's very, very different now.
What do you think's the cause of that?
I think the control and the monopolization of the sport by the UFC, unfortunately.
How does that stop small organizations?
Well, because anything that starts to gather some momentum, they buy them out. They got rid of them.
They certainly did buy out a bunch of organizations back in the day, right? They bought out Strikeforce. They bought out Pride, but they sort of bought out Pride. They got fucked.
Yeah.
Like, they thought they were buying out Pride. Do you know the whole deal behind that? All the contracts are bad.
Is that right?
Yeah, they got a fucking DVD library. Look, over time, I'm sure it's been worth it, right? But I believe they paid $60 million for Pride. I might be wrong about that number, but that's what I recall. And they didn't have any contracts. Like, the contracts were all fucked up. So, like, they thought they were going to get Fedor. They thought they were going to get everybody. And so they got a lot of the guys to come over and sign new contracts with the UFC, like Crow Cop and Nogueira and a bunch of other people. But I don't think they got nearly what they thought they were getting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So this was huge, right? When the UFC bought Strikeforce and has some of the stars that to this day, legends before they were giving us these legendary runs. I mean, you have people like who were acquired in this: DC, Robbie Lawler, Nick Diaz, Luke Rockhold, Gegard Mousasi, The Reem, Alistair Overeem, Bigfoot Silva, Hendo, Gilbert Melendez. And that's only some of the legends that some of these casuals, let's be real, will never get to witness how good these fighters were and the true pioneers of the sport that they are. And this is also where the UFC just has the upper hand in this clip. At that point you had maybe the Japanese promotions that were the biggest opposition, but I mean, come on, that's across the globe, and it's shadowed by gang affiliation, bunk contracts, which had people who jumped ship wanting to come back to fight in the States for the UFC, which gave absolutely all the leverage to Dana and the boys. And Dana, the thing is, I've watched the UFC for a long time. 2026 Dana is not 2011, is not 2001 Dana, is not 2002 Dana. 2026 Dana would be, buried in what 2001 Dana would say to 2026 Dana. And it really was building the sport off. This is the best fighting the best. Now, the difference is that back in 01, 02, the value must have been different. The talent's different. It really did feel about the fights back then that the best wanted to fight the best, and entertainment wasn't a factor in here. But now, versus 2026, the value of the UFC, the whole media landscape has changed. The talent is sharper. There's so much more access to MMA and being able to just absorb content from people teaching it on YouTube. Like, everything is completely different now. Everything is more heavily weighed on entertainment rather than putting on the best fights, which means the best fighter takes on the best fighter. And to entertain people, you need a huge roster to help choose from, with all these different personalities and these different walks of life that walk into the octagon that make us want to root for these people at the end of the day, right? And it brings me kind of to this clip.
Obviously, I love the UFC, and I've always held Dana and the UFC and what they've created for us in very, very high regard. But there has, in my opinion, we've passed the tipping point now, where now we're starting to see some of the negative effects of them kind of locking down everything. Because, like, there are certain organizations that are connected with the UFC and they're enabled by the UFC through Fight Pass, and then they become almost like the feeder
like
leagues.
LFA.
Exactly.
Right.
But then a lot of those shows are now starting to get dropped off of Fight Pass, right? And the reason for that is because Contender Series is replacing them.
So which shows have been dropped off Fight Pass?
I think LFA's just been dropped, hasn't it?
Oh, has it been?
I think so. I mean, Invicta was on there a long time ago. I think they moved away themselves, but like, there are Aries was dropped a period. My wife's a commentator on Aries. They were dropped a while ago.
What was Aries?
It's the French promotion.
Okay.
Ares. I always say it wrong. Ares is the.
And they were dropped from Fight Pass?
Yeah. I think they've been picked up again now, but this is my thinking behind it, right? And I remember back in the day when I was fighting on Cage Warriors in the UK, and the UFC were coming over once or twice. Like, it started to kill off all the other shows because everyone was like, "I'll just save my money. I'll wait for the UFC to come." Before the UFC came over and staked a claim in the UK, we had a lot of shows that were kind of popping up on weekends. I was up and down the country and across Europe all the time. But then when we started having 2 or 3 UFC events a year, a lot of the smaller shows just dropped off, died off.
Do you think so? You're saying save your money, meaning as an
fans.
audience member?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't fault the UFC for that.
Oh no, absolutely not. And look, and what they did when the UFC landed in Europe, they legitimized the sport, and then the perspective started to change very quickly. Like when I had my title
And
fight.
I fucking hate Joe sometimes, bro. Like the only time I listen to Joe Rogan, it's really to watch comedians that come on, like my favorite comedians or whatever comedians, MMA and conspiracy. That's it. That's like the top 3. If you listen to for politics, come on, bro. Psyoped. You've been psyoped. But anyways, he completely, all the time, he just derails his guests, and he derails Dan. And I feel like Dan was just about to get to the gist of how the UFC has cornered the sport by introducing the Contender Series. But Joe, being Joe, interrupts him and changes it to how the UFC showing up changes the regional promotion scape and what he plays into it also, which Dan is 100% right. About when they show up to a place and now that they have the market, people save the money for it, right? Just like he said. But I feel like the UFC has ruined really the chance for any promotion to live and thrive with its own champions, and because now every promotion is under Fight Pass, and every promotion is basically feeding the UFC that's under Fight Pass to their Contender Series, right? There's no more, you're the champion of this and this and this, and then you're just going to walk straight into the octagon. I think that's still more of a rare occurrence nowadays than it was back then. Back then, it was easier to, I think, get into the UFC, right? The roster was different. Like I was saying, the talent's different. The roster was different. Everything about the UFC was completely different now. Now it's more of like a glam show, kind of. Like the last guy I can remember coming in was probably Ethan Ewing, because he fucking fucked up Malcolm Willmaker. Super short notice. He was the A1 combat champ. And it feels more special when somebody like Ethan Ewing will step into the octagon, right? I mean, it feels bigger. It feels like, man, maybe we've heard of this guy, maybe we haven't heard of this guy, but he made it on our radar. And, going back to these organizations, I feel like the promotions, they never get bigger. And I get it. Maybe not everybody is trying to be the UFC, the PFL, Bellator, but there has to be some rumbling out there to push against the grain of the UFC. I mean, if anybody I feel like could do it, it's probably people like Dan Hardy, who could step in there and listen to the fans and not give us bullshit like Dana saying to just watch the fights. It's like, there has to be somebody out there who's more for the fighters. And I guess you could say that just the UFC being there and the biggest sport, and that's where you can make the most money. Yeah. Just feels a little different now. I feel, and it's crazy. It's true. I think Dan is right. I agree with Dan. I've been agreeing with people like that, yeah, the UFC has cornered the sport. They've turned the UFC into a machine now. And, we're getting to that point where a lot of the times, a lot of these promos, a lot of the advertisement up to, I guess, like nowadays, like now they're getting the ball rolling and they're starting to see what works for them. But before, I mean, the ESPN, the start of the Paramount, I mean, everything was looking soulless. And what you go there is to watch the fights, and the pageantry about it is extra. But, you want to watch the best fight the best, these things. And, I go back and forth. It's a really love-hate relationship between this sport and how it's become nowadays, I think, for me. And it's just an interesting time that we're in for the UFC. And, yeah. we finally got a look at the UFC fight kits that are going out for Freedom 250. And I got to say, they don't look too bad. They look more, though, like a soccer jersey than they do a UFC fight kit. I'll say that. And the fight kits are looking pretty cool. I mean, they got this red, white, and blue stringy, cummy texture looking, I don't know, stringy, like they stretched out like a little, like a candy. They got all these lines on them. I mean, it's not like wow, you know, but it's different. I mean, the white shorts look pretty cool. And even before that, we had I don't know if this is just the replica or this is just the show belt, but we had a new look at the UFC White House Freedom 250 belt. I mean, look at this thing. Now, I remember when they first introduced the regular belt, and I was like, man, this is ugly as fuck. Ugly. Bring me back to the old UFC belt days. I mean, that belt was sick as fuck. I love that belt. But this Freedom 250 belt didn't look that bad. I actually liked the little accents with the USA stuff. It was actually pretty cool. Yeah, I feel like that's my unpopular opinion, that belt was actually pretty sick, though, with the red, white, and blue, the American stripes. These kits are like, whatever. But it's just, like I said, it's just different. It's just a spectacle. So everything for this White House card is just, wow, different, you know? Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for me. I hope everybody has a nice rest of their week. Back to the grind, back to doing what you're doing and getting that bread, getting that head. Let's get the fuck out of here, y'all. I'm Jay with Scraps and Taps, and we'll see you guys for the next one. I believe we got fucking Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano coming up. Another big fight. I mean, are these the guys to shake up the MMA landscape and put something out there that could rival the UFC? I don't know. We'll see. What do you guys think out there? But again, like I said, I'm Jay with Scraps and Taps, guys. Everybody take care. Have a nice week. Peace.